Okay. So welcome. This is our Storytelling Monday class. And today we're going to revisit Shiva and Parvati. You might recall we were talking about them before when we talked about the story of Ganesh. Now we're going to look at Shiva a little bit more in particular. Often Shiva is, and here's my little monument to Shiva, and you can see he's dancing. And Shiva is often called Lord of the Dance, or the provider of yoga. And so we're going to just go into that story today and find out what happens. So starting in Sukhasana, which means easy seat pose, you want to have height underneath your hips if you're sitting on the ground so that your hip joints are higher than your knee joints. If that doesn't happen easily for you, please use a chair and sit in a chair. And you might want to close your eyes for a moment. You might want to center into your own breath and start to prepare to begin yoga class. So to start our story, let's go into some yogic storytelling, some yogic philosophy. Shiva is not known only as one of the main deities of yoga philosophy, but also he's got the title as Adiyogi, which means first yogi. He is often thought to be the originator of yoga. He was the one who first put the seed into the human mind. A collection of works called the Shastras say that Lord Shiva first imparted his knowledge on yoga and meditation to his wife Parvati after they were wed. And it's only after this that the cosmic joining of Lord Shiva and the goddess of Parvati happened. So in order to kind of imitate that part of our story to start today, I'm going to invite you to move and breathe and make a little bit of sound with me. So I'm going to move back here. There's more space coming into my Sukhasana pose. And if you want to just peek for a second, if your eyes are closed, you want to just peek, that's fine. I'm going to start by bringing the hands together in a prayerful position. And we do this a lot in yoga class, and we often talk about some of the subtle meanings behind this gesture. But today, let's imagine that your right hand is Shiva and your left hand is Parvati, and they're coming together in that eternal romance that is part of the cosmic dance. So as you bring your hands together, just kind of think of that melding of the masculine and the feminine. And then to bring the dance element and the joining and the celebration of the joining, I was wondering if we could incorporate the sound of Om. So we could do this kind of movement as we inhale and this kind of movement as we exhale. And let's do that about 3 times. And let's really bring a lot of intention to what we're doing, a lot of understanding to what we're doing. Because you can do that gesture all till the cows come home and it won't have near the meaning or effect for you as if you knew why or how you were doing that. So maybe if you tip the chin slightly towards your heart, center into your breath once again, and then let's begin our first inhale together. Maybe your chin stays tipped towards your heart, maybe your eyes are closed, and maybe you press your palms a little bit towards each other, just to really bring that union of right, left, masculine, feminine, Shiva, Parvati, a little bit more closeness there. And it's from this place, my friends, that we begin to practice yoga today. So when you're ready, we'll move up to a standing position. On the night of their union, which is thought to be over 15,000 years ago, according to the philosophy, Shiva and Parvati started the dance of mystic love. It is described as one that joins is yoga. And Shiva attained to his full enlightenment and abandoned himself to an ecstatic dance in the Himalayas. So let's begin in mountain pose. I'm going to keep the camera the way it is. I know you can't see my head right now, but I want you to focus a bit more on the feet anyway at this point. And let's begin our own ecstatic dance. So I remember when I was young and used to go out on Saturday nights to hear the rock and roll bands, and I had lots of dancing going on. But I think we need a little bit more of a mindful, intentional dance. So I want to start with moving up the body, toes, knees, etc., as we bring the prana up and start to bring that intensity up in the body. So let's start by inhale, fanning out the toes. Exhale, imagine gathering the mat up under your toes. So it's a very simple movement perhaps, but we're bringing a lot of awareness and intention to that movement. Good. And then rolling onto the outside edges of your feet when you inhale, rolling onto the inside edges of the feet as you exhale. Do the best you can to keep the knees facing forward. So this is more of a movement for the ankle joints. If balance is an issue, grab your chair, have it close by. Inhale, come up onto the balls of the feet, and exhale, lower down onto the heels. Do the best you can to keep both of your ankles parallel to each other as you lift and lower in time with your breath. This is what makes the dance ecstatic, is the fact that we're aware of the breath. When you're ready, you can roll the ankle in one direction as you inhale and roll the ankle in the opposite direction as you exhale. So we're really aware of the ankle, and because we're moving with the breath, that's what we want. We want that kind of passion and intensity. Inhale, straighten the leg. Exhale, bend the knee. And if you had a chair there, it might help with your balance, if you need that. Good. And then both feet back on the floor, just for a breath. And then we'll move into the other ankle, circling on the inhale and going in the opposite direction as you exhale. And then inhale and exhale. One hand on a chair, of course, is an option. Balance is a little elusive for whatever reason today. Good. And now let's work into hip movement. Again, hand on the chair is fine. Going back to the first leg I started with, inhale here. As you exhale, draw the knee up towards the chest. Inhale, point it out to the side. And then exhale, circle it back up and around. Do the best you can to keep your pelvis steady and just move the leg. It's actually very challenging. And then after we've done maybe 2 or 3 breaths in that direction, let's go in the opposite direction. Inhaling and exhaling. And this is to bring the energy, or we call it in yoga prana, up towards the middle part of the body. One more breath. Wonderful. And back into mountain pose. You can take a breath between sides. As you feel the difference, I can feel that the prana is starting to move more in that hip than the other one. So I'd like to be equal. So I'm going to inhale here, exhale, inhale. So we're moving with deliberation, with awareness and intention. And that's, I think, what they mean by the ecstatic dance. So it's not the wiggling and jiggling that I did to the rock and roll band, per se. Switching directions maybe now. It's more of a union. Remember, yoga is one that brings things together. So it's more of a union between movement and mind, and breath becomes the bridge. Beautiful. And then back into our mountain pose. I'm going to tip the computer just a little bit now so that I can see you a little bit better. And we'll move into bringing the prana up these limbs. So we'll start with an inhale, fingers fan. Exhale, fingers make a knife fist. And then just as we did for the ankles, inhale, wrists in one direction, exhale, wrists in the other direction. And one more breath like that. Very intentional, very aware. Inhale, arms straighten. Exhale, elbows bent. So the movements are, kind of simple, but they become a type of dance, don't they? And then as you inhale here, bring the elbows apart. As you exhale, circle them around to the front of your space. This is a movement for the shoulder blades as much as anything. So if you want to bring a little awareness to the upper back, and then maybe we can reverse the directions on that. Inhaling and exhaling. Okay. And then let's come into table pose. So, you know, if you'd like to use a chair for table pose, it's always a great option. You can go into traditional table pose on the ground, your choice. Inhale, lift the chest, pull it forward of the arms. Exhale, gather the belly up to the spine and let yourself round out like a cat stretching. We'll move a few more breaths like that, no need to rush. We're bringing the energy that we activated up from the feet and up from the hands, and we're really disseminating it or squeezing it into all the joints of the spine. And the spine is where so much energetic activity happens. So the dance is becoming even more intense, more ecstatic, if you will. Wonderful. And then moving back up to mountain pose, maybe taking the feet a little wider apart than they were originally. It's your choice, depending on how wide a base you need. Little soft bend in the knees. I'm going to suggest we lift an arm up. If you find that holding the arm up above your head becomes tiresome, please drop your hands to your hip bones here and move along with us from there. So we'll start with inhale up, exhale, lean out to the side. Let's do that preparatory movement a couple more times on this side. And then switch sides. Inhale up, exhale, lean over. And you may notice that one side of your body feels a little tighter, a little more resistant to this than the other. That's normal. But in yoga, we seek to bring everything together. Okay, back to the first side. Inhale up. This time, take the other arm up, grab a hold of the wrist, and gently come into the half moon position, just supporting really, not pulling on this top arm, but supporting. Now, for those of you with the hands on the hips, you could just maybe drop this one arm just to get a bit deeper into the stretch. For those of us arms above the head, and that's still okay, bend your knees a little bit more deeply. Take the same foot that's up, the arm that's up in the air, tuck it behind, and give me a tiny little curtsy bend. We've come into what's known as dancing Shiva now. The gaze can be down at the back foot in order to get a little stretch through the jaw and the neck. Try one or two more deep breaths, really opening into this side of your body. And then let's release back to a neutral position. Feet can be a little wider apart if you need that extra base of support. Take a moment to inhabit your body, to be in this symmetrical pose. So to create an ecstatic dance, we have to know where we are. We have to have purpose. We have to be able to match the breath with the movement. When you're ready, inhale up on the other side, exhale into the half moon stretch. You can use the other hand to support the top arm. You can take this leg, step it behind, bend the knees, a little curtsy sort of movement. And you can look down if you want to that back foot. And this is imitating the movement that you kind of saw in the statue. The legs behind instead of in front, but this is often called dancing Shiva pose. Take one more nice deep breath, especially into this lung over here. And then come back up to standing. And then let's just bring the cosmic union back forefront in our imaginations. That's what we really want to be thinking about today. So maybe just one more time. We'll inhale and exhale. And then to keep the idea of melding right and left, back and front, up and down, let's come into some sun salutations. I'm going to demonstrate using the chair today, but if you prefer to use or you're comfortable with knees on the ground, then you can work lower to the ground with your lunges. So coming near the front of your mat, if you're using a chair, the seat of the chair would be facing you. Bringing the hands together as right and left hands join at the heart, we express our heartfelt intention to be one. When we bring things together, that is what yoga is all about. When you're ready to inhale, reach for the sun. Exhale, soften the knees and come into forward fold. Inhale, straighten the arms. Lift the chest forward of the arms. And as you exhale, step the right leg back into lunge. Inhale, you have the option of lifting one arm or both arms. And as you exhale, step back into downward facing dog. Now, if down dog doesn't work this early in the practice, take a prayer pose, or I'm demonstrating down dog using the chair. We'll have a full breath in and out here. And on your next inhale, please step the right foot forward, finding lunge on the other side. And we'll stay in the lunge pose for the exhale. Sometimes it takes a little bit more to get organized on the second side. Inhale, you can lift one arm or both arms. Exhale, step forward into forward fold. And inhale, reach all the way up to the sun. And exhale, hands to the heart. I'm going to come down to the ground version for the next round. You can stay right where you were with the chair if that was more comfortable for you. Exhale all air out of the belly. And then inhale, reach for the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, bring the heart forward of the arms. Exhale, forward fold and step the left leg back. And on the inhale, you can lift just the left arm or both arms, depending on how you feel today. And exhale, stepping back to downward facing dog, or the alternative might be an extended child's pose. Deep breath in and out. And on your next inhale, step the left foot forward. Take the exhale to get organized. Sometimes it takes a while to get that second leg forward. On the inhale, you can lift just your right arm or both arms. Exhale, step forward to forward fold. Inhale, keep the knees soft and come all the way up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Just pause between rounds. So for Shiva, when his ecstasy allowed him some movement, he danced wildly. And when it became beyond movement, he became utterly still. So there's a point in our yoga where we'll look to find that stillness. But let's do one more round of sun salutations, choosing the version that you like best. Hands together at the heart. Awareness of the intention to join. Inhale, reach for the sun. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift the chest forward. And exhale, step the right leg back into lunge. Inhale, lift your arms. Exhale, step back into downward facing dog. Remember, there's alternatives at every stage here. Take a deep breath in and out. And on your next inhale, step the right leg forward into lunge. Take the exhale to continue to get organized. And on your next inhale, lift either the left arm or both arms, your choice. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale, hands to the heart. Take a deep breath in and out. Finding symmetry, finding stillness after the movement. And then the last half round. Inhale, reach for the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. And exhale, drop the left leg back into lunge. Inhale, lift just the left arm or both arms. Exhale, step back into downward facing dog. Hold here for a full breath in and out. If you're in down dog, knees are soft, heels apart. On your next inhale, step the left leg forward. Take the exhale to get organized. Make sure your left knee is over top of your left ankle. On your inhale, you can lift the right arm or both arms. Exhale, step your feet together and forward fold. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. And exhale, hands to the heart. So now we've really brought the energy up. We've been doing our own version of ecstatic dance today. We're going to come into our next posture, dancer pose. So you may want to take a chair, turn the chair around so that the back of the chair is facing you and the chair won't move. You've got it braced against something like a baseboards or it's on your yoga mat. The other thing that you might want to do is also have a strap handy, especially if you've ever had knee surgery or your knees have been swelling or giving you any trouble. This can make this pose a lot more fun. So we started with Sukhasana today, and really all poses should be Sukhasana. All poses should be comfortable and even blissful. So I'm going to start with this version of dancer. If you know other versions of dancer and you want to go ahead into that, that's fine. I've got a loop in my strap. If you don't have a yoga strap, you can still just use your belt or whatever like this. So holding onto the chair and squaring my hips to the back of the chair, I'm going to take one knee, bend it, and see if I can loop the strap or the belt or the tie, whatever you're using, around the top of the foot. There we go. So one hand can be on the chair, one hand on the strap. Bring the knees so they're right beside each other and bring the heel as close into the buttock as you can without causing your knee distress. Before we go any further, take a peek down at your left foot, the foot that's standing on the ground, I should say. Make sure that it's in Tadasana, it's in mountain pose. So sometimes my foot has a tendency to go wandering out on an angle. So I want to have the foot parallel to the long edge of the mat. And for many people, especially if you're tight in the hip flexors or the quads, this is a wonderful place to be. Lift your chest, lift the crown of the head to the ground, to the sky, and breathe deeply. And here's some other options if you're getting bored here. If your balance is with you, you can lift the opposite arm up towards the sky. If you're still doing pretty good, you can begin to lift that back leg. Now the knee is pointed into the opposite leg. Don't want the knee wandering out to the side. I want the knee almost going knock knee, pointing towards the opposite knee. Ooh, losing my balance. Good thing my chair was there. And then keep pushing your foot back into the strap. Wonderful. Keep lifting the chest and the crown of the head towards the sky. Anytime you need to, hand can come down to the chair, or you can back out of the posture a little bit if it's becoming a little unstable. Now see if you can find ecstasy here. See if you can find, after the movement, we find stillness, and we find that union that Shiva was trying to teach us about. When you're ready to release, just come to stand in mountain pose for a moment, feeling the two sides of the body. On the night when Lord Shiva for the first time shared the secrets of yoga to his wife, he became the Adi Guru of yoga. And he taught Parvati 84 asanas of yoga. And these 84 asanas have the power to give a person the best of life, the best of Raja Yoga. We'll talk about Raja Yoga in just a minute, but we have to do the other side. So with the chair in front of you, bend the other knee, reach around with the strap and hook it over top of the foot, and bring the knees back together. So the bent knee is pointing straight down to the ground. Your spine is elongated, the crown of the head reaching high to the heavens. One hand can stay on the chair. And that's maybe where you want to stay for today, especially if you're really tight in the quads or the hip flexors. This can be great work. Make sure that the tailbone and the sacrum are heavy so they're angling down to the floor behind you. Your low back is neutral and spacious. It's not feeling crunched at all. And then, of course, there's the option to take the opposite arm up. There's the option to tip the foot back into the hand. Just think about this knee trying to point at the standing leg knee. Find a couple deep breaths. Find the stillness after the dance. Smile. And then you can release and come back to mountain pose. So what is Raja Yoga? Basically these yogic positions that Shiva discovered and shared with Parvati eradicate all the doshas, which means it takes away all the imbalances, our tendency to be too fiery or too earthy or too spacey. It confers the most auspicious results. So this enables a person to remain healthy and wealthy and happy and successful. So let's turn sideways on your mat. Take your feet quite wide apart and turn your toes out so they face the corners of the mat. When you bend your knees, do you notice that the leg bone is in the same angle that your toes are pointing? If I have my knees bent like this and I roll a marble or an alley down my thigh bone, will it land between the second and third toe? So we want to see if we can find that. Okay, so the movement here is in the pose called Devyasana, which honors goddess energy. So we're moving to Parvati in this story a little bit now. So this is a movement that we can use. With the knees fairly straight, we can inhale, lift up, and then bring your hands together in Padma Mudra as you bend the knees. So what that is the baby finger and the thumb are together. The other three fingers are far apart. And if you look from the top, it looks a little bit like a lotus flower. And as you exhale, bend the knees and bring that right into the heart center. And then inhale, stretch back up. And exhale, Padma Mudra, right into the heart center. And continue with that, a couple more breaths. So the eternal love that Shiva had for Parvati was so strong that he never wanted to share these yogic secrets with anybody but her. However, goddess Parvati, being the symbol of care and affection, could not take the sufferings of the people and wanted to share this miraculous secret with them. She believes that the introduction of this yoga in a proper manner would rectify many of the mysteries of the world. So as you continue a couple more breaths in this version of Devyasana, think of yourself, whether you're male, female, or anywhere in between, think of yourself as having that open, compassionate heart, unable to handle the visions of suffering that you see around you, and you're sharing your yogic energy as deeply and as widely as you can. One more breath, exhale. Beautiful. And then come back up to straight legs. Push the heels apart. So now the big toes are closer than the heels are. We're getting ready for forward fold. If you wanted to bring your chair seat in front of you to rest your head on the chair seat, that might be a nice kindness for yourself. So feeling at the front of your body and noticing that you have protruding bones here, right at the front of your pelvis, and that the hips bend right below the bumper bones, as I call them. This is where we want to hinge. You don't want to round out your back. You want a nice long back here. We'll come up and down a couple times, and then we might hold the forward fold. If you're nervous about bringing your head too far to the ground, use the chair in front of you. The chair seat will give you a nice resting point. Okay, inhale, arms come up, extend the spine long. Exhale, soft bend to the knees. Reach out and forward first, and then touch down to blocks, chair, or floor. Inhale, knees are slightly bent, ears in between the upper arms, come all the way back up. And then exhale, forward fold. Continue that a couple more breaths. And then the next time you come forward, stay in your forward fold. So staying in your forward fold for a few breaths. Now, Lord Shiva was quite reluctant about this act of spreading the knowledge. He thought that mankind would not have the understanding to respect these cosmic powers. But with her loving approach, Parvati persuaded Shiva that he should. And Shiva surrendered to her love and compassion and her example. And as we hold forward fold, surrender to the heart energy that you might feel within yourself that we've been stimulating through this practice. Okay, to come up out of the practice, our pose, please make sure your knees are a little soft. Take your hands to your hips. Inhale halfway up. Hold here as you exhale, really firming the abdomen. And then inhale the rest of the way up. Step your legs together. And I'm going to suggest that you take your chair and turn it back around so the seat of the chair is available to you, you may choose or prefer to use a block. This little dance we're about to do involves balancing half moon pose. So the chair makes it quite accessible for most of us, but you may prefer a block or even bringing your hand to the floor. Okay. So when you're ready, take your feet, we're facing the long edge of the mat. The chair or the block is at one end of the mat. Our legs are fairly wide apart. We're going to take the right leg, my chair's over there to the right, my block's over there to the right. Take your right leg, externally rotate and bend the right knee being right on top of the ankle. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale into warrior two. Exhale, tip forward, hand on the chair, lift the back leg. This is just half a breath. See if you can land the leg back down. Straighten the right knee, find triangle pose briefly. Keep the knees straight. Inhale and exhale back into a half moon stretch with our legs apart. Let's try that again. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, lift the left leg into your half moon. And then as you exhale, land back down and come into triangle. This is a basic triangle, nothing too fancy. Inhale up and exhale, reverse your triangle. Let's try that again. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, bounce up onto the right leg, half moon pose. Inhale up, exhale into triangle. Inhale up and exhale, reverse your triangle. And one more time. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, bounce up into balancing half moon. Coming into triangle. And then reversing the triangle. And then releasing. Both sets of toes facing the long edge of the mat, feet parallel. A chance to feel stillness now. So when Shiva discovered yoga, he discovered a lot of movement, ecstatic dance. We're interpreting that as movement married with breath today. But then he also found periods of stillness. If you were using a chair, you'll want to move that to the other end of your mat. And then let's rotate the left leg and go into the same flow on this side. Inhale, exhale, inhale back up, straighten the legs, exhale to triangle, inhale up, and exhale, reverse the triangle. Again, inhale, warrior two, and every posture is not going to look perfect. Exhale, balancing half moon. Inhale, come up, straight legs. Exhale, Trikonasana. Inhale up and reverse the triangle. And we'll go through that flow 2 more times. Make sure there's a little soft bend in your left knee, no matter where you go, even the straight leg parts. Inhaling, warrior two. Exhaling, half moon pose. My hand might be on a chair or a block. Inhale up, straight legs. Exhale, triangle. And inhale, reverse that as you exhale. And we'll come out of that. Legs still fairly wide apart. Stillness in the middle. So people saw he was experiencing something that no one had ever known before, something that they were unable to fathom. Interest developed, and people came wanting to know what this was. They came, they waited, and then they left because Shiva was oblivious to them. He was either dancing maniacally on his own, or sitting in oblivious stillness. He was so uncaring of what happened to them. Soon everyone left, except for 7 men. So we're going to come back into our triangle pose. So let's rotate the right thigh bone. Know the right knee can have a little flex to it if you want. If you need to adjust this leg forward or internally rotate a little bit, feel free. Now when you're ready, inhale, widen out the heart. Exhale, move into a triangle pose that you can hold for several breaths. I'm going to encourage us, if we can, to begin elongating our inhales and exhales. So you can count in your own mind. You might start with a 4-count inhale, 4-count exhale. And then the next breath, go to 5. And then 6. See if you can hold this pose until you can count a 7-count inhale and a 7-count exhale. So that might take a couple more breaths. If your top arm gets tired, let the hand rest to the hip like we suggested earlier. Look down at the floor if your neck needs a little softness. And this is our last breath here. See if you can count in for 7 seconds and out for 7 seconds. And then to come out of the pose, look down at your right foot, lift yourself up, bring your feet parallel, even a bit pigeon-toed, so the big toes are closer together than the heels. And just observe for a moment the effect of lengthening and deepening your breath to that extent. One thing you might want to check that might be kind of interesting is your nostrils. We've been breathing in and out through the nose, as we often do in yoga, but the idea in all of these practices, these 84 Raja Yoga practices that Shiva gave us, is for us to bring things together, union. So if you feel that the breath is moving fairly evenly in both nostrils, hey, that's yoga. We're doing it. So let's rotate the left leg. We're going to come into triangle pose and hold again, progressively lengthening towards 7 inhale, 7-second inhale, and 7-second exhale. Remember, the left knee can have a little flex. Inhale, wide open heart. Exhale, come into Trikonasana, a version of triangle pose that you can hold for several breaths. And then again, you can progress through maybe a 4, 5, 6, eventually to a 7-second inhale, 7-second exhale. Know that you can look down at your left foot if that's easier on your neck. These 7 people were insistent that they must learn what Shiva had taught them, or had in him. But Shiva ignored them. And they pleaded and they begged, please, we want to know what you know. And Shiva dismissed them and said, you fools, the way you are, you're not going to know in a million years. There's a tremendous amount of preparation needed for this, not entertainment. When your next inhale, let's come all the way back up and turn the feet parallel. And bring your legs together and we'll pause in mountain pose. Maybe we'll bring the hands together at the heart. We'll tip the chin towards the heart and we'll insert one of those first breathing ohms. Remind us that this isn't entertainment, that this really is something quite special, something quite sacred. Inhale. So Shiva spoke of things requiring a lot of work, a lot of discipline. I'm going to turn my camera down now, and you can come down vinyasa style if that's your gig. We're going to make our way into plank pose. So this is one option, the classic option of plank pose. You could also come down onto your forearms. You can also lower the knees. For those of you who don't want to get that close to the ground yet, you can come into plank pose with your chair like this. So regardless of which version of plank you choose, think of the determination that it requires to become a yogi. The years of practice, the sweat, the looking inward, the letting go of all the distractions of the outside world. And see if you can bring that determination and that focus for 3 more breaths. And to really work it, count 7-second inhale, 7-second exhale. And then we can take a break into the child's pose. Or if you've been using the chair all the way along in class, you can just turn around and sit down in the chair for a moment. So these 7 men, they started preparing day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. They worked and they prepared. And Shiva just chose to ignore them. Okay, we're going to come into side plank now. You may want to have a blanket handy. I'll show one version of side plank on the ground and then a version of side plank with the chair. You can choose which one. If you have a different one that you like, then of course take that one. So we were in child's pose. We'll come up to all fours here and step the right leg to the back of the mat, tuck the toes under. Flip the left foot to the outside edge of the long mat. Flip the right foot right down onto the ground and come up into a knee down version of side plank. So I'm pressing my right foot down there into the ground and opening my arms from my chest. If you prefer a version of side plank with the chair, it can look something like this. And we're still pushing up from the chair, lengthening the crown of the head and opening the heart. So they prepared. On a full moon day, after many years of preparation, the Adiyogi, known as Shiva, looked at these 7 people and saw that they had become shining receptacles of knowing. Let's switch to side plank on the other side. Good work. So these 7 men had worked for years, and on this full moon, Shiva saw that they were shining receptacles of knowing. Can you be a shining receptacle of knowing? They were absolutely ripe to receive. He could not ignore them anymore. They had his attention. Let's take child's pose or a seat in your chair if you're using a chair. And take a moment to think about yourself being a shining receptacle of knowledge. Are you in for becoming a true yogi? One who desires above all else to see union, to see harmony, to see that bringing together. We're going to move down onto the mat now. And as you know, I like to have a folded blanket to kind of cushion me a little bit because I'm working on a hardwood floor in here. Take your time as you transition. Keep your knees bent for a few breaths if you need to, just so that, you know, everything kind of settles. We're going to do a couple different versions of something that's sometimes called lake pose. So for a moment, if you want to think of yourself as a cool, expansive lake, a shining receptacle of knowledge. And then we'll take a nice deep inhale, maybe stretch the arms back overhead. Exhale, draw one knee in towards the chest. You can always hold behind the thigh and let the other leg stretch out. So this would be the first part of the lake pose. After resting into this pose for a couple breaths, if you feel like you have a little bit more space, you can take the same leg that's straight, take that arm and stretch it back. So for me, it's the left side. And that gives you the feeling that there's a lot of space in the one side of the body, like a wide, shining lake. Maybe take 2 or 3 more breaths here. And then we can bend the straight leg, bring the arm back down, let this foot come down too. So we're back into the constructed rest pose where we started. Noticing maybe there's a little difference between the two sides of your body. So let's bring that open, shining lake feel to the other side of the body. So this leg can come in, that leg can stretch out, and this arm might stretch back. Breathing deeply into the open side of the body. And if a visual of a wide, calm, clear lake sparkling in the sun helps you to relax and spread out and pool out on your mat, then let's do that. And then you can go back to constructed rest, or another option would be to stretch the legs out straight. Flex the ankles so the heels are pulling away. Take the hands back, reach the fingertips away from the heels, push your lower back flat towards the floor so you're not arching in the spine. There's good adhesion of the spine to the floor, and take a few deep breaths so you're full open lake here. If this doesn't work, feel free to come back to constructed rest. On the banks of a lake that lies up in those Himalayas, Shiva turned to shed his grace on the human race, and the transmission of the yogic science to the 7 people began. And this night is celebrated today in yoga areas as a special festival. Gently release, sometimes this is called Tadaka Mudra. Gently release, bring one knee and then the other knee in towards your body. Inhale, release the knees away from you, and exhale, draw the knees in. You might visualize this posture, sometimes called Apanasana, as a way to massage or absorb into the guts the shining receptacle of knowledge that you have been. So whatever you've been learning in a somatic way, in a full body way, in a unified way today in class, is being absorbed and squeezed into all the different tissues. You might explore moving towards that 7-second count in and that 7-second count out again. Last breath. Now, if your back is in a really good place right now, you could leave your knees up like this. If your back is a little tender today, bring your feet to the floor and even widen your feet apart from each other. Inhale here, and as you exhale, drop the knees to one side. Inhale, come back up, and exhale, drop the knees to the other side. So if you decided to keep your feet up, it might look like this. The legs don't have to touch the floor. So on this night that Shiva gave the information to the 7 men, the planetary positions in the northern hemisphere are such that there is a natural upsurge of energies. And if one just stays awake and keeps one's spine erect throughout the night, it naturally pushes a person towards his or her spiritual peak. So let's take a few moments of rest here. You could be in constructed rest, or you can stretch your legs out, doing a little bit of Shavasana. Closing your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Letting your breath soften. You don't have to count 7 seconds in and 7 seconds out anymore. So yogic science is not about a class that you go to learn how to bend your body or hold your breath. Every unborn infant already knows how to do those things. Yoga is the science of understanding the mechanics of the entire human system. And after many years, or many lifetimes, when the transmission was complete, Shiva had created 7 fully enlightened beings, the 7 celebrated sages, who are today known as the Saptarishis. Shiva put different aspects of yoga into each of these 7 people, and these aspects became the 7 basic forms of yoga. And even today, yoga has maintained some of these distinct lineages. The Saptarishis were sent in 7 different directions to different parts of the world to carry this dimension with which a human being can evolve beyond his present limitations and compulsions. And they became the limbs of Adiyogi. And time has ravaged many things, but when the cultures of these lands are looked at carefully, small strands of their work are still alive. It's taken on various colors and forms and changed its complexion to a million different ways, but the strands are there. Every major spiritual leader the world over has the same basic message. Bring it together. Open your heart. Have compassion. Shiva brought this possibility that a human being need not be contained in the defined limitations of our species. There is a way to be contained in physicality but not belong to it. There is a way to inhabit the body but never become the body. There is a way to use your mind in the highest possible way but still never know the miseries of the mind. In whatever dimension of existence you are in right now, you can go beyond that. There is another way to live. Shiva said, you can evolve beyond your present limitations if you do the necessary work upon yourself. Because you came to yoga today, because you carved out this time for yourself, you've done the work. And every day, sometimes multiple times a day, we do the work. So before we leave this position, you might want to just open awareness into the body and notice the physical changes, but also notice if there's any changes because we brought union to the body and the mind through the breath. Is there a sense of peacefulness or cohesion that wasn't necessarily there before? Now you are welcome to stay lying in Shavasana. We have about 5 or 6 more minutes together. I was going to suggest a breathing practice. So if you would prefer to rest in Shavasana, if it's been enough movement for you today, then please stay where you are. Otherwise, let's come back to Sukhasana. This is the first practice that you did today, the first posture. So we were talking about bringing balance to things and the marrying of Shiva and Parvati, and how she brought something to the equation. Without her, the knowledge never actually would have reached the human species. So we're going to do a breathing practice if you want. If you don't like this practice, you can do just regular, even ratio breathing. We're going to do a practice today that really honors the inhale and gives it its own separate section, and then the exhale gets its own separate section. So we really see the honoring of both sides of the equation. So it's called square breathing. You inhale for a certain amount of time, you hold the breath, and then you exhale for the same amount of time, and then you stay peaceful before you take the next inhale. So let's use a 4 count inhale, 4 count hold, 4 count exhale, 4 count rest. And in the rest, when we're inhaling, let's run the Shiva mantra, one of them, through our minds. So you probably have heard this in yoga class before, Om Namah Shivaya. It's a familiar mantra. So as we inhale, let's do that mentally. As we retain the breath, let's do it mentally. As we exhale, we can do it out loud. And then at the end of the exhale, we can retain it mentally. So this is kind of how it goes. I'm going to count out 10 rounds of this. It'll take about 5 minutes. If you feel at all uncomfortable or dizzy or you don't like this, just close your eyes and go into your own meditation or stay in Shavasana. Okay, I'm inhaling and mentally repeating Om Namah Shivaya. Holding my breath, repeat Om Namah Shivaya, and then exhale. Om Namah Shivaya. Mentally repeat as you rest. And then inhale, mentally repeat. Hold. Om Namah Shivaya. Rest, mentally repeat. And then inhale, mentally repeat. Hold the breath, mentally repeat the mantra. Om Namah Shivaya. Rest and mentally repeat. And keep going like that. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 And that's our last one, unless you want to keep going on your own. Sitting in stillness for just a few more breaths. Keenly observing your unique experience of this moment. And then one last time, if you'd like, you could bring the hands together at your heart, symbolizing the joining of Shiva and Parvati and the dissemination of the knowledge of yoga as a result. That was their baby. And then we can inhale together, just like we did at the beginning. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste.